When Manhunt first released in 2003, it shocked the gaming world. Manhunt is a horror game, but it's not your typical first-person mascot horror. Manhunt is a third-person horror game based on stealth with some survival elements as well. After the first game, a sequel, Manhunt 2, was also released, and to this day, it is the final Manhunt game in the series. But what made this game so controversial compared to the other horror games? It was so controversial that it got banned in several countries, which made it difficult for Rockstar to sell the game. The challenges they faced were even greater when it came to Manhunt 2, as it got rated adults only and still to this day is not sold anywhere digitally except for the PS Vita. So how did it happen? Well, to understand that, we need to take a closer look at the Manhunt games. James Earl Cash, a death row inmate, is about to be killed as a punishment of the crimes that he has committed. However, instead of facing death, he wakes up and gets to talk to an unknown voice guiding him through Carcer City. Using an earpiece, he gets to hear what this voice tells him and his objective becomes clear. He is saved by this unknown man in order to serve him by taking part in a snuff film ring. This unknown voice tells him to kill every hunter he faces in the most brutal way possible in order to successfully complete his task. And with that, Cash is resurrected. From the streets of Carcer City to the mansion of a rich movie director, Manhunt is unlike any other horror game ever. It has a primary focus on gameplay rather than the story. However, as you make progress in the game, the story unfolds even more until the end.
It looks like this goes all the way to the top. I can't trust anyone, least of all the police, and time's running out. I've got to get the one piece of evidence that will expose Starkweather without a shadow of a doubt. Footage and testimony of a man who was executed by the state 5 hours ago.
James Earl Cash, found guilty and sentenced to death, has been on death row for the past 3 years and was executed last night.
Hey, tough guy, wake up. You're not dead. Well, not yet, anyway. You're getting a second chance. Another throw of the dice. As far as the world is concerned, you died back in the chamber. Justice was served. James Earl Cash is rotting in hell. Hey, get a grip and calm down. You're probably suffering from shock, and I'm here to help. Pick up the ears. Put it on. Go on. That's better. Now only you can hear me. And that's the way you're gonna want it, because I'm your only way out of here. Hey, easy. Look, you've had an unexpected reprieve. Do exactly as I say, and I promise this will be over before the night is out.
As is stated before, Manhunt is a stealth game, so sneaking up on enemies is a primary focus of the game. However, as you progress further in the game, more weapons will start to appear, including guns. Levels or missions in Manhunt are called scenes, which is a fitting title considering the fact that this game is about taking part in a snuff filmmaking. Another fitting detail is how the game takes place at the night time, which is not only to have a scare factor in the game, but also to work as an intended mechanic. Night creates dark shadows for Cash to hide. This is the most important element of this game, as you'll be constantly running away from enemies or sneak past them using the shadows to your advantage. You can kill enemies in the shadows to remain undetected. Dead bodies can also be hidden in shadows, which makes enemies stay unaware of your presence or your actions. Sometimes even the enemies will hide in the shadows, though that only happens in scripted scenes and a handful amount of times as well. Once Cash is behind an enemy, he can execute them in 3 brutal fashion. When holding the primary attack key, after Cash gets ready to execute, a marker will appear on the head of an enemy. If the attack key is held for a long period of time, the marker will change its color from white to yellow and then yellow to red. At white color mark, Cash will do an execution which will not be too brutal. However, at yellow mark, the execution will be violent, and a red marker means it will be gruesome, which is the most brutal execution Cash can perform. The game will give the players stars, which shows how well they performed, and a maximum of 5 stars means the scene was played perfectly. 1 star can be obtained by finishing any scenes within their challenged time limit, while another 3 can be obtained depending on how violent or gruesome the executions got. Smashing the heads of enemies grants bonus points towards the stars. They can be done by blowing the enemies' heads off with a shotgun or by doing an execution which makes Cash smash the heads of his targets. It also works on dead bodies as well. Just stand on top of one and smash the head like watermelon. So, by being as brutal as you can get, you get up to 3 stars, and by beating every scene within their challenge time limit grants another one, which leaves us the final star. It can only be obtained by completing the scene on the hardcore difficulty. Manhunt has only 2 difficulties, and hardcore is basically the harder one out of the 2. Playing Manhunt on fetish difficulty will make the radar visible. It picks up the sounds you make and also the enemies around you and the state of their awareness. Yellow means they are relaxed, orange means they are suspicious, and red means you have been caught. Aside from that, you also have your health bar and a status bar, which represents the action that Cash can perform and also if he is currently hidden from enemies or not. In the hardcore difficulty, not only does the enemy deal a lot more damage, but the radar is also off, which turns it into the ultimate manhunt experience and also giving you the last star when you beat a scene. Apart from a couple of scenes where an escort mission takes place and boss fights happen, this is the gameplay for majority of the game. The first scene takes place right after Cash is set free. This scene acts as a tutorial level and teaches the players the basics of the game while also letting the players know that each enemy gangs have their unique features. However, for gameplay purposes, they all act the same for the most part. In the second scene, Cash needs to kill a few more hood members for Starkweather while also unlock a door by getting a crowbar. By the end of the scene, Starkweather plots an ambush to see if Cash could 1v1 a hood member.
Gonna grab me a trophy.
They don't need your charity, Cash. Don't give them an edge.
I never saw you, man. Heads up, guys.
Going to the next scene, we kill some more hoods, and this time, dead bodies can be found in the dimly lit rooms used as props for the snuff film. Though I would like to say that by the looks of it, these are real dead bodies and not props. After smashing some more heads, Cash is caught by the Cerberus, and this is the first time the player realizes that the unknown voice behind the microphone, or Starkweather in this case, cannot be trusted at all, because the Cerberus is following what this voice is telling them to do. From here on out, the game introduces us to new characters like Ramirez and the Skins Hunter Gang. Also, it's the first time the player could see the unknown voice live for the first time. The guy behind the microphone is Starkweather, and he used to be a big Hollywood movie producer. But when his movies started to flop, he went completely insane and started making snuff films. It just so happens that because Cash was a criminal, he would be a perfect fit for a killer that needs to survive and make the perfect snuff. Also, he is dead as far as the world was concerned, so it didn't matter what he would do from this point onwards. So, Cash kills some more hunters, unlocks the nail gun, which is the first firearm that is unlocked in Manhunt, then blows up some explosive barrel and finishes yet another scene for Starkweather's greatest snuff. Next up is Fueled by Hate, and like the name says, Cash needs to use a crane which will clear out the way for him. But to get the crane working, he needs to to fill it out with fuel. This scene introduces some unique mechanics, like the crane can be used as a weapon to kill the enemies. Another fairly long scene with a lot of enemies to kill. Also, this place and the place where you go to save Lance in GTA Vice City is actually kinda the same because they uses some of the same assets. If you pay attention, you can easily notice it. At the end of this scene, the players are introduced to Pigsy for the first time. He is a mentally deranged obese man with a pig mask on him, and he's also a cannibal. The Cerberus are seen torturing him, probably on behalf of Starkweather, as they follow and do what he tells them to do. Along with that, we get introduced to the War Dogs. They carry guns and cleavers with them. They also have a sort of military code to follow, and Ramirez is ordering them around just like he was ordering the skins before this scene. This is the first scene where an optional shotgun can be unlocked. However, it's the worst weapon of this game, and I will explain why later. You also get the tranquilizer gun, which is a great weapon. Moving on to the next scene is where things get very interesting and personal. In Strapped for Cash, Cash needs to save 4 of his family members as they are strapped with a rope. He needs to kill the War Dogs in order to save his family. However, if they see Cash, they will kill the family members. It doesn't matter too much as only one family member needs to be saved in order to progress in this scene. This scene also plays a big part in the last act of this game.
Hold up, Cash. You and your family weren't exactly close, am I right? It's just that I thought it would be nice to have a surprise reunion. But these War Dogs didn't see it my way, and they've taken matters into their own hands. They're using them as bait, Cash. Bait! I know! I can hardly believe it myself. Each time they spot you, these War Dogs are going to execute one of your beloved family.
Get out of here! Run!
Shit, you blew it. And now she pays the price.
Don't stop until you're out of here.
2 dead, 2 alive. 50-50. Half a family. Good enough for me, though.
After saving his family, Cash finds himself in an abandoned shopping mall where some more hunters await for him with guns in their hands. This is an action-packed scene as no stealth is required. Starkweather tells Cash to find a camera and a tape in order to play it. After Cash gets his hand on the camera and the tape, he gets to know that the camera is broken, so he needs to play the tape on a TV. After turning on the generator switch, he finally plays what's on the tape. Turns out, the family members he saved were all killed by Starkweather, and this makes Cash visibly furious. From this point onwards, Cash knows what Starkweather is up to once the snuff that he needs is done filming.
You must understand, Cash. I could never let them go. Where were your family when you were facing your final moments in the chamber anyway? You've left your old life, your old self behind. I'm all the family you need now.
The Smileys are introduced next as a new hunter gang, and in this scene, we have to escort this tramp all the way to the exit. Fun fact, the tramp is voiced by Mark Margolis, Hector in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Anyway, the next scene is where we finally get to see why the double-barrel shotgun in this game sucks. It has a very slow fire rate and a very long reloading time. Also, you have to get close to your targets in order to one-shot most of the time. So, if the RNG is not in your favor, you will be severely punished for it. That's why it's a really bad weapon for shootouts.
He's over here, up to his old tricks again. Oh, look at the funny. What a surprise.
Nothing but Okay, so you're not here.
Used robbers.
But I heard you. I heard you.
Vanish.
I don't fucking believe the leg of this cucaracha.
Slash 'em! Slash 'em! Blast 'em! You can do it all, kid! Well, that's put a spanner in the works. Why don't you try the guard out?
Nasty, man! Party now!
Getting closer to the end of the game, the Smileys are introduced. They run around with masks on and are mentally insane. After killing a lot of them for a couple of scenes, Cash is tasked to follow a white rabbit. The white rabbit is a mysterious character and not much is really known about him. He carries a key and Cash is tasked to get that key and run to the exit. However, it wasn't supposed to happen. Starkweather needed Cash to die and because of that he warned Ramirez about Cash slipping away. Now Cash has no choice but to kill Ramirez and this can be achieved in a couple of ways.
Cash slip his leash. Bring him to heel. Failure isn't an option. Now go.
Where do you think you're going, man? Huh? What the? You think you're tough? Think you're tough? I'll rip your fucking head off! Don't wanna play anymore? You like hide and seek? You like hide and fucking seek? Well, we're coming for you, asshole.
What's the matter, little boy?
Ready or not?
It's our turn now.
Run! Run!
After killing the war dogs before getting to Ramirez, I decided to chase him all the way to downstairs and then kill him using the sniper on the roof that he conveniently left for Cash to use. The sniper makes it very easy as he can be killed with a headshot from the sniper. After killing him, Cash is saved by the reporter who appeared as the first character in the beginning. She tells Cash that Starkweather's snuff ring was documented by her and she will expose him for what he did. But she needs to get to her apartment first where she has all her stuff. This is where cops start to appear as a hunter group for Cash. Cash kills the cops and helps the journalist out. However, instead of escaping, he makes up his mind and decides that he will take revenge by killing Starkweather for killing his family. And this is where the game shifts a lot.
Everything I need is in that box under the table.
Good. Take it and get out of town.
But you're not coming with me?
I'm going to deal with Starkweather personally. Thank him for my second chance. You're my backup if I don't make it. Have a nice life.
From here, you're no longer hunted because Starkweather wanted you to. You become the hunter who lurks in the shadows. From killing cops and Cerberus to killing SWATs, nothing was stopping Cash until he gets to the train yard where the Cerberus found him and caught him in his tracks. This is where they hold Cash hostage near Starkweather's mansion. The last couple of scenes of Manhunt are some of the best designed levels in the entire game. They are very difficult and gives off a survival horror feeling. Even though they depend on the firearm usage, the game's level design really shines as enemies will carry shotguns with lights on, assault rifles that they fire in the shadows to check if anyone is hiding or not. If you kill them and take the shotgun, the moment you aim it, the light gives away your position, making it very difficult but engaging as well for you to kill enemies. In the final scene, you have to kill both Pixie and Starkweather. The Pixie fight takes place in a maze-like hall. The walls and everything around you is deteriorated to the point where it feels like the walls are bleeding. Killing Pixie requires 3 consecutive strikes from the back and then tricking him to step in the loose fence and finishing him off. One of the best designed fight in this game.
No more! They sucked your gut! Ricky not play no more! Ricky go home! Ricky's angry!
Then lastly, killing Starkweather is still satisfying after all these years.
Cash, I made you!
Acclaimed movie maker Lionel Starkweather has been found dead today, along with several of his bodyguards, at his estate at the Wapona Hills residential district. In what investigators are calling a bloody vendetta, an unknown assailant infiltrated the compound, killing Starkweather, but more interestingly, leading police to the site of a snuff film ring being run from the estate's confines. Linked to this ring is Carcer City's own police chief, Gary Schaefer, whose lawyer stated that he intends to plead not guilty.
Even after all these years, there is quite nothing like the first Manhunt. This game was so controversial and still to this day it is. However, the mechanics of this game are so well designed and put together aside from 1 or 2 sections that I must say Manhunt is a classic. It has a large following is still now and people are still playing it and enjoying the streets of Carcer City. Funnily enough, the Manhunt 1 and Manhunt 2 games share the same universe with Grand Theft Auto, which means the universe is still being expanded upon. Manhunt 1 happens when true art shines and an artist does not care about people's view on it. Snuff films exist in real life and this only shines light on the topic. This game has been such a major success when it comes to the gaming industry that countless of other stealth games went on to take inspirations from it, and you can also notice that as well. And after the success, Manhunt 2 was made. The idea of Manhunt 2 is surrounding insanity. This game was released in 2007 and it was the final game of Rockstar releasing on the PlayStation 2. After the first game ended, they decided to go on a completely different direction with Manhunt 2. Manhunt 2 begins on an insane asylum. The story revolves around Daniel Lamb, a scientist who decided to be a subject for a project that was too controversial. The project's objective was to create a super soldier with no remorse and conscience functions. Manhunt 2 is a much shorter game than Manhunt 1, and because of that, the story is paced much faster compared to the first game. This is why the cutscenes in this game are actually much more informative than the first one. But did Manhunt 2 retain its legacy like the first game did? And if it did, why aren't there other Manhunt titles after this one? Well, that has a lot to do with how the game was managed when it came to selling it. Manhunt 2 was rated adults only, which made it very difficult for Rockstar Games to put Manhunt on shelves. They tried to censor the game so it could sell on other platforms, but they face a lot of challenge getting this game to the consumers. Because of that, Manhunt 2 really did not sell well enough for Rockstar to consider this series going forward, and that's how it remained the last game in the series still to this day. Manhunt 2 is again another stealth horror title like the first game. You have your standard third-person camera and radar on sane difficulty and no radar on insane difficulty. I like how in the first game the difficulties are fetish and hardcore, and here they are sane and insane. Really fits with the overall themes for both games. In Manhunt 2, you play as Daniel Lamp, or Danny for short. Danny has a friend named Leo. Turns out Leo is actually in Danny's head, but he doesn't know that as of now. See, Danny decided to be a subject for the project's final experiment, which is why the project decided to put Leo Casper, another identity, in Danny's head, to see if Danny can become a soldier with no remorse, as it was the project's objective. The government used to fund the project, but then they learned that the project had a lot of controversial methods to get it working, and so they shut down the funding, which meant it was the final chance for the project to continue. Danny decided to be the last subject, not because he was a scientist himself, but because the money he would get if it were successful would have been a lot. He could secure his family's financial future, but his wife was greatly against this. Unfortunately, they agreed to disagree, and Daniel decided to be the final subject of this sinister experiment, and it was a success. In Manhunt 2, the reason you kill enemies brutally is because they're trying to hunt you down, as you are a very dangerous man running around and that you are literally insane. Leo is the buddy that turns Danny into a complete killer psycho. I should mention that Manhunt 2 is also the only game out of the two with multiple endings, a good and a bad one. Like the first game though, Manhunt 2 starts off with only melee weapons and slowly gives you firearms and much more brutal weapons as you progress further into the game. In addition to the new weapons, you can also play as Leo in certain missions, which makes this game have technically two different playable characters compared to the first one. A new gameplay addition is interactive execution, which can be turned off in the settings. Basically what it does is every time you get into an execution, the game will tell you to move your mouse in specific ways to mimic the actual execution, and it's actually really accurate. I think this was part of the reason why a lot of journalists thought this game was a murder simulator. Of course it isn't, but it's interesting to note. Playing the game first time having this setting turned on is a lot of fun. However, in my opinion, on my multiple playthroughs, I can confirm that it is a disadvantage to play it with this setting turned on. Because if you have this setting turned on, then every time you execute someone, you have to move your mouse in a specific direction to start that execution, which means you are always slower to perform an execution if you have this setting turned on. This can make the game difficult because sometimes you're about to execute an enemy when they turn around, and all you have to do is to release the left mouse button. But with this setting turned on, you have to quickly react and move your mouse the direction the game wants you to. Other than that, Manhunt 2 has some slight gameplay differences than the first one. You can crawl in certain locations in Manhunt 2 and also vault through windows as well. The gunplay is way easier and much worse than the first game, because in Manhunt 2, if an enemy is close enough, you can kill them with a headshot, and that automatically locks on to the enemies. This makes gunplay bafflingly easy and takes away all the challenge from it. Also, every weapon will blow enemies' heads off if it's a headshot, except for the stem gun and the crossbow. So getting easy headshots and blowing off heads will give you bonus points like the first game, but it's way easier now because you can now blow the heads off enemies with pistols and any other guns as well. It doesn't have to be necessarily a shotgun only. The last major addition in this game is the environmental executions. Basically, you can use part of the environments in order to execute your enemies in the same episodes. It is a requirement in order order to get the bonus points on those episodes. Yes, the levels in Manhunt 2 is called episodes as they are being filmed and captured in a reel. As mentioned before, the game starts at the asylum where Danny is kept. This episode works as the tutorial section and teaches you the basics of making noise, being in shadow, and knowing when to run and when to stop. It also shows you how to execute enemies from behind, which is exactly the same as the first game. In this game, there are no heavy melee attacks, you can only do one type of attack, and instead, you can lock onto your enemies, which you could not do before. With that being said, this first episode is basically Danny trying to escape the asylum. He needs to kill a bunch of narcissists in order to survive and successfully escape. You are given glass shards, hammers, and pens as weapons. I personally like the executions of Manhunt 2 more than the first game as they are generally way better and more brutal. They are actually sadistic compared to the first game, which makes sense since in this one you play as a killer with no conscience. After killing the nurses, Danny finds a dump truck in which he jumps and escapes the hospital. After that, he gets to the old place where he used to live. Leo tells him that he needs to get a drug which will make him feel better. However, Danny realizes that he used to live at that place, but Leo does not tell him anything.
Keep moving, we haven't got much time. We have to get to the house.
Wait a minute. I used to live around here.
Not anymore, Danny, but there's something in that house we need. Something you left for yourself. We've got to be quick. This is the first place the project will look for us.
Wait, how do you know all this?
Danny, listen. It's a manhunt. And they won't stop until we're both dead. Come on. Let's go.
The watchdogs are revealed as the second hunter gang in this episode. They are basically hired by the project in order to capture Danny to see if he truly is the best soldier out of everyone. After getting a crowbar, Danny enters his house where he gets some flashback, but ultimately does not realize what happened. Apart from the storytelling, this episode is pretty short and easy. The house is very ghostly and there are some jump scares here and there, but when you know they are coming, they're not scary. Which is why the episode is called Ghosts. After getting the drug, Danny finds a matchstick with the name Judy in it, which gives him a hint of where he should go next, which is when we are introduced to the next hunter gang called Perverts. In this episode, Leo tells Danny that he should just back off, but he doesn't listen to Leo as he feels the need to get back his past. The Perverts are very disturbed individuals, and from the looks of it, they're making snuff films to make extra cash on the side while they work with the project. This episode also features a lot of environmental executions, and they are all very cool. You also need to get all of them in order to maximize the points needed to unlock 5 out of 5 style points. After talking to Judy, she tells him that he needs to go to the safe house and Daniel follows her orders. In the next episode, a new mechanic is introduced, which is censored lights. If you move fast around them, they will light up and expose you. Interesting mechanic, but unfortunately executed very poorly as there are way too many shadows you can hide in, which makes them useless. These are the Red Kings and not much is really known about them, other than the fact that they are necrophiliacs. Anyway, not much to talk about this scene other than the fact that it closes with the cops being another hunter gang. Yeah, these aren't really hunters as they are not necessarily looking out for you, regardless they are your enemies. So at the end of this episode, Danny is being shot at by the watchdogs. He hides in the building where he finds the safe house and finds a picture of Michael. After this, the next episode is the flashback where Michael and Danny are both ordered to be killed. Leo tells Danny that he will go after Michael in order to start the boat and escape the place. This is the first episode of Manhunt 2 where you have to fight your way out using a handgun. There are still some cool environmental executions that you can perform, but once you get your hand on a pistol, it's easier to use that and headshot anyone than to sneak up behind your enemies and to execute them. Michael tries to fire a flare in order to defend himself, but unfortunately Leo is the better out of the two when it comes to surviving. After killing Michael, you take the keys and escape. Then it's back to reality. From here on out, you kill some more watchdogs and finally get to the place where Judy is.
I'm sick of this. We're gonna find Judy and talk to her.
What do you mean you volunteered for an experiment? You can't play God with your own mind.
We've tested it. It's safe. It's just the final part of the process.
You're gambling with your life. What about me and the kids?
Look, If it's a success, we can clear all our debts and start a new life.
Turning yourself into a psycho? What are you thinking?
This is a real chance to change the course of medical history.
Stop fighting!
What's wrong, Mom?
Come here, honey.
Son, we still love each other.
You're asking too much of us, Danny. Of yourself.
What does psycho mean?
It just means someone who thinks differently.
Can't you see that you have to put your family first?
I am putting them first. If this all works out, we'll be providing for our great-grandchildren.
This is so wrong, Danny.
Project Danny, they're
His
everywhere.
conditioning has fractured. He's unstable.
Daddy, what's wrong?
You can wake up now, Daniel.
I said wake up!
Judy?
I don't believe this shit. Danny, this is crazy. She's no use to us.
She knows more than she's saying. I've got to talk to her again.
Dr. Pickman, who was in charge of this project, threatened Judy and then killed her. After this, we are doing another flashback episode where we play as Leo and go on a killing rampage. It's another episode where gunfights take the primary spot and the game slowly turns into an action game. There is nothing wrong with that, but this was supposed to be another stealth horror game, but the hunters are really not that scary in the first place. Also, in the first game, the hunters felt genuinely disturbed, while in this game, that feeling is kinda gone. However, that doesn't mean this game doesn't do anything right compared to the first one. But it's still disappointing because it was the last game in the Manhunt franchise. Now we're back at the present time where Danny is being chased by bloodhounds and the Project Militia, so he has no choice but to run and survive.
It's a trap! Get out of here! Run!
Freeze! We got his exit sealed. Moving to intercept. Slippery bastard! Fuck it. We got him holed up in there. Where's he gonna go? Cletus, when I give the word, I want you to flush that sucker out. You are surrounded! Oh, fuck it. Pickman only wants the head. Send a chopper over to soften him up.
These bounty...
That bastard slipped right through. But he ain't getting far. You two light up and cover this area. The chopper will do a circle sweep in the shadows.
At the end of this episode, another flashback episode takes place where we get to learn that Leo burned down all of Danny's past. After this, though, we enter the final stretch of the game. Dr. Laura finally catches Danny and injects him so he passes out. When he wakes up, he finds himself beside Dr. Laura White. Here, Dr. Laura tells him that Leo is not a real person and is really in his head along with everything else that he needs to know. After this, she also reveals to Daniel that Leo really is the one who killed his wife, which is why the house was completely abandoned and burned, because in that way there are no evidence left of the crimes that were committed. Because of this, Daniel now needs to kill Leo in his mind in order to get rid of him and finally be born again.
Behind you!
Leo? Leo? Leo! Leo?
You can talk to Leo anytime you want, Danny. But first, let's you and I talk.
What's going on?
Do you remember who you were, Danny?
No.
Do you remember the work we did?
No.
You believed we could take a normal individual and implant a second personality, triggered at will. Our intention was to create the perfect weapon, a killer with no conscience or memory. Does he sound familiar, Danny?
Leo.
Two minds in one body unaware of each other.
Wait, that's not right. Leo and I talk all the time.
The bridge malfunctioned early on. We were working to repair the damage when you, or Leo, decided to escape.
I see. How do we fix this?
Pickman thought his mercenaries could destroy Leo. I believe the only person who can stop him is you. I know it's difficult, Danny, but you must go back to that night. I need you to remember.
You heard the APB, people. That serial killer from the plaza is headed for our happy little community. I want you looking in every garbage can, mailbox, and goddamn treehouse for this guy.
I've got some unfinished business here, Danny. Something I need to do alone. Go to the safe house and wait for me there.
What then?
Freedom, my man. Freedom.
Daniel, you will not remember anything before this moment. You will not remember us being here. You will never speak to Leo again. A little too effective, I feel. Get him out of here. Remove the cameras, torch the house.
At this point in the game, depending on your actions, you will get to play the episode that will grant you either the good or the bad ending. In order to unlock them, all you have to do is complete all episodes of Manhunt 2, but make sure you either killed civilians unnecessarily or got all the stars in every episode. That is for the bad ending, and if you don't do any of this, then you'll get the good ending. In the bad ending, you play as Leo, and the final mission is a complete bloodbath where shootouts take place and Leo kills Daniel and survives, which in turn makes Daniel completely forget who he was and become Leo, which basically means the bad ending will turn you insane. In the good ending, you play as Daniel, going after Leo and acknowledging your guilts and burying your wife in order to save your soul. After that is done and Leo is killed, Daniel wakes up in a street and finds out his new address and his new name. And with that, he walks off into the sunrise.
You think you can get rid of me? You goddamn runt. I'm the one who belongs here, who deserves to be here. You're nothing. Without me, you'd be nothing.
I just have to ignore you, Leo. And you know it.
Ignore me? How about your wife's blood on your hands? Can you ignore that?
Shut up.
You made me. You put me in your own head for the sake of your pathetic career.
Shut up!
And you cut your wife's throat right in front of her baby boy.
Fucking kill you, you psycho piece of shit! More than I need you.
Fuck you, Danny. I won. Fuck you, Pickman. Fuck you, White. Fuck the project. I won.
You can wake up now, Daniel. Dr. Lamb, can you hear me? Dr. Lamb, how do you feel? I followed the protocols exactly as you left them.
How long was I out?
You've been out for 3 weeks now. I took the decision to remove the Pickman Bridge. It was the only way we could be sure. We're very keen to resume work on the project. Shall I gather the staff?
Yes. Just give me a moment.
And what about your wife, Danny? Do you remember what you did to her?
It wasn't your fault, Danny. I don't blame you. Lay me to rest and be free.
Think it's that easy to get rid of me? I made you.
I could be you, but I have a choice. A choice! And I choose to be me!
Who the fuck wants to be Daniel Lamb?
I do! I do! You hear me?
You see? You can't get rid of me. Couldn't. Never.
My name is Daniel Lamb!
My name is... I don't know my name. Your name is David Joyner. You live downtown at the following address. You'll find everything you need there. Good luck. 526 Hope Street, Apartment B.
After the disturbing night of the first Manhunt, Manhunt 2 was a disappointing sequel. First of all, it's way easier than the first game, which takes away from the survival aspect. But secondly, it also is a much more action-focused game overall. The consequences of failures are much less in this one compared to the first. Also, it's a much shorter game with only 16 episodes total, counting both of the endings, where the first game not only had a 20-scene campaign, but also had bonus episodes with fun tasks as well. In Manhunt 2, all you get are 2 different endings and nothing else when it comes to the content. That makes sense because this game was rushed, and you can definitely tell that. The enemies compared to the first game are really not that scary at all. Also, some players complained that the first game had a valid reason to kill someone brutally, but this game does not have that, which I actually disagree. You are a killing machine, so it makes sense you would want to kill someone as brutally as you can. Leo also tells Daniel constantly to see how it feels to own a life, which I think is a much darker reason to kill someone brutally than the first game, where you are forced to do that. There are so many things about this game that is equally as dark as the first game, but they are all cut out from the game due to the rushed development, as it is the last PlayStation 2 title Rockstar developed. Which is why, unfortunately, unlike the first Manhunt, the sequel is disappointing to most people. It just doesn't hit as hard as the first one did. So, after 21 years, we still have only 2 games in the Manhunt franchise with no words from Rockstar about its return. It will always be an important series for the industry, as it did set the bar of horror games very high, while at the same time revolutionized the stealth genre as well. It's always fun to go back to these games, as there really is nothing like them at all. If you have made it this far into the video, I would like to say that I have started my Patreon, and I would really appreciate if you could support me on Patreon. You will get to see some behind the scene things like the scripts that I write, and also my videos will be available early on Patreon, including this video as well. And also, I would like to say that I do have a YouTube membership available as well, so if you want to support me, you can also do that by becoming a member on my YouTube channel and joining it. With that being said, thank you for watching. Perfect Enrager signing out.